Magandang tanghali sa ating lahat. I am pleased to have this virtual press conference today. And with me, to my right, is Secretary Cruz-Angeles, who has taken time out to join us in this Department of Energy. We do have a mini surge of the virus here, so that's why we have tried to minimize the physical presence of everyone. And because I myself have come from sick bay, and it took me that's the reason why I have so far to our virtual press conference. I just would like to make a short presentation that that was also the basis for the goals and objectives of the department. In other words, our one of the core of our marching orders. Can we have the, what is this? Can we have the slides, please? Okay. So what you see here is the energy goal as presented to the President and the Cabinet. And this essentially captures the three messages that the President delivered at various occasions. One is on energy security, that is expanding the development of our indigenous energy resources. And second, this is intended to provide accessible and affordable energy to the Filipino people. And third is, this is towards our transition to a sustainable, low-carbon future. So for today, our main topic is on optimizing the utilization of our indigenous energy resources. Because the next slide shows you part of the reality of where we are right now, and which is foremost in the mind of the President and the Cabinet. So you can see there, as the numbers show you, that the total primary energy supply, or the total supply of energy that we are using, is 56.8% imported, as against only 43% domestic or indigenous. So you can say that we are very energy insecure, less than 50%. Then the next, before we go to the next slide, it shows you that coal is 37.1% and oil is 34.6%. That's primarily transportation, but it also includes some of our power plants, especially in the smaller or in the various islands and missionary areas. Whereas renewables, hydro accounts for 4.5%, the hydro power plants among them, the mega dams, and other renewables only account for 16.5%, and their geothermal accounts only for 1.8%, because the conversion rate from steam to power is only 10%. So that's why we use a lot of steam, but the amount of power that we are able to produce is much smaller. Next slide, please. So here is the situation regarding coal. And our coal dependence on imported sources is 87.2%. And of that 87.2%, Indonesia is the main source with an overwhelming 97.7%. If you will look at the left side of this slide, the power sector accounts for almost 90% of our total coal consumption, whereas cement and others account for the rest. The next slide, please. Now, on the power generation mix and the power capacity, you can, if you take a look at the total indigenous power from indigenous sources, again, it is less than 50%, with only 45.1%, as against imported of 54.9%. And if you take a look at the second column on the renewable energy, the installed capacity, and that means the capacity of the total plants we have installed is 29%. But then if you take a look at the power generation mix, in terms of power generation, it only accounts for 22%. In other words, because many of our renewables are variable, like solar cannot be there 24 hours a day, even during daytime there are clouds. So the variability accounts for that. At best, our solar plants have at the moment a capacity factor of only 22 to 23%. So in one whole year, a 100 megawatt solar plant can actually only provide 22 to 23 megawatts. So that's a huge difference, right? And that's why we have to use the natural gas, as a what is this? As a backup power, or to make up for the variability of renewable energy. So that's the reason why one of the major focus of the president is on the upstream natural gas development of our indigenous resources. And that's why he wants to make sure that the policy environment for investors in the upstream is going to be, one, certain, two, stable, and three, absolutely clear. So that's upon instructions of the president and the cabinet, the legal cluster has met, and we in the DOE, in the Department of Energy, have joined them in a meeting called by Secretary Remulla of the Department of Justice, with no less than the Chief Presidential Legal Counsel, Juan Ponce Enrile, and Solicitor General Maynard Guevara, joining us in a virtual meeting yesterday. So yes, we are addressing that desire of the president to make sure that the investment climate and the legal environment for investments in the upstream becomes absolutely clear. Okay. Next slide. The situation, what I have shown you was the generation mix in the on-grid areas. That means the on-grid are the areas connected by the transmission grids, including Luzon, major islands in Visayas, and Mindanao. But if you take a look at this particular slide, this shows you a different picture with oil accounting for 89%, a whopping percentage of the fuel that is used by our power plants in the off-grid areas. The off-grid areas we also call the missionary electrification areas. And while the latest data we got was from 2020, this is fairly reflective of the situation right now. And just imagine how much has the price of diesel and bunker fuel increased in the past year alone. And you can imagine what is the cost of electricity in order to produce them for our people in the major islands like Mindoro, Masbate, Palawan, all these off-grid areas have to be provided with power, and the costs have skyrocketed. But of course, upon the instructions of the president, we have to attend to our people. And both the Energy Regulatory Commission and the National Power Corporation are trying to attend to these very immediate problems. And the longer term solution, however, is to move from, again, the president says, from over-dependence on imported sources and to go for more indigenous sources. So if we can introduce hybrid system, so we have more renewables in relation to the oil-based, then the cost can be more affordable and the power can be more accessible for our people. But although we have to recognize that this is not going to happen overnight, but we have to start working on it the other day. So it is a challenge, but everyone in the energy agencies are committed to assist the president and the cabinet in order to create more economic activity in the various areas of the country, precisely by ensuring more investments in the power sector. So that I just wanted to end with this on this part for now, to emphasize that because of the constraints in the supply, it is important that we emphasize energy conservation and energy efficiency. So if all of us can help to lower our demand during the peak hours. So the peak hours like 2 to 4 in the afternoon. For Luzon, there are other areas which actually have peaks also in the morning. If, for example, we can postpone doing certain activities using electric power during these peak hours, then we don't have to run the expensive oil-based peaking plants. So yung kahit lamang yung pagplantsa, kung gawin natin sa gabi, no? Rather or early in the morning, then it can contribute toward stabilizing the load and reducing the use of expensive power plants. And in the last cabinet meeting, the president said, buhayin natin si Asyong Aksaya. I don't know if the younger people among us would remember this cartoon character, but he represented the efforts of trying to reduce our consumption and wastage of energy sources. Now, uh, I I did say, let's go back to the cover. I did say uh, that all agencies have to work hand in hand. And therefore, I welcome the appointment of the new Energy Regulatory Commission chair because this is the follow through of the president on his desire to see a level playing field in the energy sector so that in more investors, more investments can come in. The Energy Regulatory Commission plays a very important role in the regulation of the energy, the power markets, and of power prices. And the Supreme Court in one particular case in 2019 made it clear what exactly are the relationships or between the Energy Regulatory Commission and the Department of Energy. So the Department of Energy lays down the policy. Under the IPIRA, the Department of Energy possesses the power to issue rules and regulations to implement the the Electric Power Industry Reform Act. On the other hand, the Energy Regulatory Commission is tasked, among others, with the enforcement of the provisions of the IPIRA. So there is a link between policy making in the Department of Energy and the functions of the ERC in relation to competition, to the setting of to the setting regulations for transmission, for distribution utilities, and even for retail suppliers. So this relationship is important because there have been unfortunate times in the past when the Department of Energy and the Energy Regulatory Commission were at loggerheads. And this did not have positive results. Both have to cooperate. At the same time, we in the Department of Energy recognize the importance of not only respecting but reinforcing the independence of the Energy Regulatory Commission when it comes, for example, to setting rates. You know, even though the Energy Regulatory Commission is attached to the office of the president, under the administrative code, the attachment relates mainly to the non-regulatory functions. In other words, when it comes to rate setting, the independence of the regulator needs to be respected because that is what the market, that is what the investors are looking at. That the regulator has a full understanding of the factors that need to be taken into account in order to ensure that there will be a steady stream of investments. It's not only the here and now, but also future investments have to come in. If rate setting becomes arbitrary, then we are going to compromise the entry of new investments in the country. In other words, we are ruining our own future if we do so. So we look forward to this healthy relationship between the rest of the energy agencies and the Energy Regulatory Commission. So I think on that note, I would like to open our forum for discussion, unless Secretary Trixie wants to say something.
No, not really.
Oh, okay.
I'm just here because this originally was going to be presented with the Malacanang Press Corps in accordance with the President's one messaging policy and for a better dissemination also of this wonderful information that you've given us today. So that's why my participation here is very limited to being again your student.
Yeah. well, I have a lot to learn from you, Secretary Trixie. Okay, so who is going to moderate? Oh, so Andrea is going to be with us. We have a small what is this?
Your
Media group.
Press
I
Corps,
think we
yes.
have 3, and then the Energy Press Corps. Go ahead, please.
Yeah. Can we call on Alvin El Chico as he first signify his intention, to ask questions?
Hi, Seth. Can you hear me? Nice to see you.
Yeah, you've been bothering me even while I was in sick bay.
Sobrang nag-guilty naman ako. Nag-worry lang ako sa iyo. Hindi ba pwedeng nag-worry ako sa iyo? Diba? Nag-worry ako siya dahil siyempre, alam mo na may COVID ka. But all is well now. Nice to see you. Kahit virtually lang. Naka-20 taon na ata tayo hindi nagkikita, no?
Yep.
50 years na ba?
No, I saw you at the Senate one time with the rest of the energy people.
Tama. I'm talking about the Senate. My question is regarding the Senate. Si Senator Tulfo is initiating an investigation regarding the frequent power outages and in provinces, ano? Especially in Oriental Mindoro. Sabi niya, it's unacceptable. What are you going to do about it? Ano ipipresent mo sa kanyang programs para naman maayos natin at hindi na nagpa-brown out in different provinces, Secretary?
Yes, as I mentioned a while ago, the president is not after band-aid solutions. Is that a company? Is that a brand name? I shouldn't use. I can't use Salon Pass as well, right?
Yes.
So we have to go for long-term solutions, Alvin. 15 years ago, we absorbed 18 billion of the debts of electric cooperatives. You remember that? Now, 15 years later, and I come back, it's even north of 18 billion. So this cannot be the case. We have to look at long-term solutions. And in the case, for example, of the island of Mindoro, it has so much potential. You have seen the latest report of the World Bank, where the southern Mindoro area, stretching from southern Mindoro, Bulalakaw, and that area to northern Panay, northeastern Panay, it has a potential of 28 gigawatts. That's 28,000 megawatts. And yet, our installed capacity right now, nationwide, is only 24 gigawatts or 24,000 megawatts. So you can see the untapped potential. If you're going to look for solar, in Mindoro, the town of Sablayan is bigger than the entire province of Cavite. That's a huge piece of land out there. And we're talking only of one town. But we need also to interconnect the entire island. So we're looking at long-term solutions, and the key is how to transform the National Power Corporation into the dynamo for missionary electrification. That is the same situation that we face in the major off-grid areas. You have big islands like Masbate. For tourism, you have Palawan, you have Marinduque. These big islands which are off-grid are feeling the brunt of what I pointed out was the 89% dependence of off-grid power sources on oil-based sources of energy. So we've got to transform that, because the Philippines is gifted with a richer potential in terms of renewable energy relative to fossil fuel based. In coal, it's only really Semirara that is producing the biggest supply of coal domestically, and it's not even the highest quality of coal. There are smaller ones in the rest of the country, which we are also able to tap. But as you have seen in the figures, we are overly dependent on imported coal. So the low carbon future is the future for us, not only because there is a demand for adaptation to climate change, but because these are the main indigenous sources available to us. Okay, I talked too much and I'm already straining my voice. It's all Alvin's fault.
Sec, just one follow-up lang. The words that you've mentioned.
Andrea, are you allowing follow-up?
Ay, sorry.
Just one follow-up, Alvin.
Oo. Hindi, actually, Sec, magandang pakinggan yung mga sinabi mo, and I'm pretty sure your student, Secretary Trixie, is old, ano? Maganda siyang pakinggan, but I'm more concerned about ordinary consumers. What does it mean to them? It may sound good, but will the supply go back or come back in the next week or so? Kasi ngayon daw bumalik, pero faltering. On-off, nasisira yung kanilang appliances.
Yes.
So rhetorics may be good, maganda siyang pakinggan. But ang tanong is, mararamdaman ba ng ordinaryong tao ang kagandahan ng mga salita mo? Go,
okay, Alvin, are you what is this? Are you volunteering to give me a magic wand?
Hindi naman.
Huh?
Gagaling yung solusyon. That's why
it. Even as we speak, the Energy Regulatory Commission is already attending to this problem of in the off-grid areas, because there is a maximum price that is set to what can be charged by NPC and its private sources. Now, if there is a subsidy that comes from the universal charge for missionary electrification, which makes up the difference between the true cost and the subsidized cost. Now, the amount of subsidy has been inadequate, and therefore the National Power Corporation has run out of funds. And we have to admit that there is such a problem, and therefore the Energy Regulatory Commission in its part is running full speed in order to be able to help alleviate that. but we will also be addressing the other issues. But I don't want to preempt the the chairman of the National Power Corporation, which is the Department of Finance, and the other board members on these details. But I want to assure you and assure our people that we are going to find solutions and not what shall I say about I keep on saying band-aid and salon pass. This temporary solutions are not enough. We've got to create also economic activities, and that's the long-term solution with the kind of new sources that we are going to introduce.
Thank you, sir. You take care, okay? Thank you, Secretary Trixie.
Thank you, Alvin.
Okay, our next question will come from Mirna Velasco of Manila Bulletin.
Hello, Mirna.
Hi, Sec. Mag-hi lang ako.
Yes. Are you still in the Bahamas?
No, I'm back na. Hindi ako tinablan ni COVID eh. Takot siya sa akin. So. Sec,
Yes.
yun siya about energy insecurity. So, since insecure kami, this is my question.
Yes.
Kasi diba, nagkakabilihan this time between Razon and Dennis Uy sa Malampaya. Pero the premise is, last year, hindi nagbigay ng consent si PNOCEC sa sale ng spec shares kay Dennis Uy. So that means hindi consummated yung transaction. Now, how can that be sold to Razon kung hindi naman naging kay Dennis Uy yung shares ng specs sa Malampaya?
Well, Mirna, it would be premature for me to speak on this particular subject. As you know, the PNOCEC has a 10% interest in the Malampaya Consortium. And the parties that you have mentioned have communicated to PNOCEC, the Exploration Corporation subsidiary of the Philippine National Oil Company. Now, as Department of Energy Secretary, it would be I would be heading the agency that will also be reviewing this from the standpoint of the Department of Energy. So while I am the chairman of the PNOC Exploration Corporation, it would not be good for me to be participating in the deliberations of PNOCEC on this and then reviewing myself later on. So I would have to get PNOCEC to address these issues, and President Alvarez is heading this particular effort right now, and they would have to address these issues with the PNOCEC board soon, because there are certain timelines that have to be met. But I have also made sure that our EC board would have a complement of professional and competent advisors or consultants that would help them evaluate what is before them. And I have also great confidence in our career people in PNOCEC that together with the consultants would be able to assist the board and President Alvarez in making in making sure that the due diligence, necessary due diligence, is carried out, and then it would go to the Department of Energy.
Second, follow-up lang na related question. How will you entice investments pagdating sa oil and gas exploration given yung continuing concern natin sa West Philippine Sea?
No, I think we don't even have to look far into the West Philippine Sea right now, Mirna. As you know, what is this? We're also looking at the areas that are clearly undisputed. And we're also looking at the near fields around Malampaya. And that's why the president has indicated that he wants to have all legal and policy issues that have been a sword of Damocles over investments in the upstream clarified fully. And we will be sharing with you as soon as the way forward has been cleared by the legal cluster. But I want to assure you that we are on track towards the resolution of a number of these uncertainties.
Okay. Short follow-up na lang, sir. Yung so force majeure ng TXP, that's one of the
You know, I forget my arithmetic, but I think I count 1, 2, 3. And Andrea said...
No, it's a follow-up question. Last na lang. Short lang, sir. Related to that kasi you mentioned naman.
Okay.
Walang sagot, sir? Yung force majeure ng TXP kung ililift na siya.
No. We will. Let's take it one step at a time, and you're running several paces ahead of me. But we want to make sure that all the prerequisites towards that will be addressed.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mirna.
Thank you, Mirna.
Question from Elena. Manila Standard.
Where is Elena?
Hello, hi sir.
Maayong hapon, Elena.
Mayang hapon sir. Sir, at follow up lang dun sa Manampaya. What's the plan after 2024? Are you studying already a possible contract extension or will it be an auction for Manampaya? And okay, sige sir.
Well, as I've said, I don't want to preempt these things, because your unfortunately certain decisions should have been best made several years ago or many years ago rather than now. So under those circumstances, we will also make sure that we still do the best we can or go for the best alternative under the circumstances. Of course, we will, should there be an application for extension, that will come down the line, because first we will have to deal with the issues about the, sale of the Shell operatorship to another entity, and then and then take the next steps after that. So you're jumping the queue, Elena.
Excited kami sir.
Of course, we should all be excited for the country, and that's the most important point, that we are seeing hope ahead of us, not despair.
Thank you, sir. Yung second question, not related to Manampaya, but it's more on the move towards RE. As we move towards more RE, do we still impose the coal ban, or is there a possibility of lifting it in the future? Thank you.
Which, it's the market itself, in fact. Yeah, I know, Elena, you've been observing the market, but market behavior is not favoring the construction of more coal plants. you know that insurers do not want to support it. Investors, it's also fine. We are also finding it difficult. So, given these realities, the previous in the previous administrations, the what is this? The moratorium on the building of new coal-fired power plants has been set. And you know, I don't believe in completely changing policies and therefore sending mixed signals to investors. One day we say there's a moratorium, then the next day with the change administration, no more moratorium. No, we have to be more considerate and consistent, considerate to investors because they get their signals from government. So especially both foreign and domestic investors do not make distinctions between one administration and another. What they are looking for is consistency in terms of the core policies. And I think while it is important to stress that we need all power available from different sources now, and we should not proceed to kill any of them because we need all of them at a time when there's a shortage. But there should be a managed, orderly transition. Okay?
Okay,
Thank you, sir.
Our next question will come from Ralph Rivas of Raphael.
Hi, Ralph.
Hi, Sec. Hi, Sec. Magandang tanghali po.
Oh, si Ralph is among the younger ones in this group. So, okay, Ralph.
Sir, you mentioned very briefly about rate setting, although you said na you leave it to the regulators. But I was reminded of this hearing about Meralco's refund. A former ERC commissioner said that the 21 billion, there should be more actually by, I think, around 80 to 100 billion because he said that the computation supposedly accounts for inflation twice and effectively lowers the refund. My question lang there, sir, is the DOE closely monitoring the hearings regarding that refund issue?
Well, what is this? Our Power Bureau, of course, is monitoring these things. As I told you, we do not want to interfere because the Department of Energy is a political agency of government. So the less that we interfere with regulation is the better for as long as the regulator performs its functions well. And I do look forward to this being addressed. This is not the only issue about a refund, about this and that. There are many other issues that are before the Energy Regulatory Commission. And the ability of our Energy Regulatory Commission to act in a timely manner on many of these issues also help establish certainty, and it also avoids unnecessary costs on the part of the investor. So ultimately, we are thinking of the welfare of the consumers. And it is a balance that has to be struck by the Energy Regulatory Commission. We cannot say that despite the increase in fuel prices, because we are import dependent, that government can provide miraculous solutions by not recognizing that prices have increased. We would have to do it, but using established and methodologies that are internationally recognized, and that's what the Energy Regulatory Commission, as regulator, would have to do.
Okay, sir.
Thank
So
you.
for my second question po, Mr. Manny Pangilinan, in a recent briefing, said that he's interested in investing in small nuclear power plants, although he was not able to elaborate further kung gaano kaliit ang mga to. But I just want to ask, has the DOE studied small nuclear power plants,
Well,
and is more feasible?
Well, thank you, Ralph. But as you know, that even in the previous administration, they already started on what is this? Formulating a nuclear energy policy for the country, and the Senate, Senator Win Gatchalian informed me that they actually provided funds for the Department of Energy to conduct a study on this. But I still have to see the study. But even in 2005, when President Macapagal Arroyo asked me about nuclear, I said that we do not ban technologies. The thing that is banned under the Constitution are nuclear weapons, not peaceful uses of nuclear energy. You know, the Philippines is one of the early supporters of the International the Atomic Energy Agency. And in fact, if you would recall that that as early as I think the presidency of President Carlos P. Garcia, we already had policies on peaceful uses of nuclear power. That's why we had the Philippine Atomic Energy Commission. Remember the eggshell in Diliman? That huge eggshell that has now been demolished? That's because the research was there. But the challenge before us, which the president has also indicated, is that we will be open and we look into the options for nuclear, because nuclear is non-carbon emitting. Second, nuclear, is the capacity factor. That means the ability of nuclear power plants to produce power is the highest among all sources of energy right now. So it's in the 90%, whereas solar is 22 to 23% at best, and then coal maybe in the 50s. We have nuclear at the highest. But, and there's the big but, the levelized cost of energy coming from nuclear because of the upfront investments and so on, and even the unanticipated costs that come out later, as well as down the line, the disposal of waste. The levelized cost of energy from nuclear is also among the higher ones. So we'll have to balance all of these. And for the small modular nuclear power plants, we will attend to them when they become commercially available. But right now, we will focus instead on one, for example, establishing the regulatory framework. Right now, what is the successor of the PAEC, Philippine Atomic Energy Commission? The one headed by Caloy Arcilla. Okay, the Philippine Nuclear Research Institute is both the regulator and promoter of nuclear power. And that's a big no-no. You cannot be promoting something and saying that you are regulating it at the same time. So these are the kinds of things that we have to address. And the president mentioned, remember Secretary Trixie, that we are going to fully consider and abide by the additional requirements of the International Atomic Energy Agency, especially after Fukushima. The Fukushima accident happened, when they reinforced and strengthened the requirements. So we will be forward-looking and attend to this during this administration. So we would be ready once the technologies are available to field them. And one of the most important points is to be able to address the concerns of the host communities. Huh? So we would have to strengthen the trust and confidence of our people in the ability of government to regulate safely, to put up necessary standards. And we can even look at this from the regional standpoint, that if Vietnam, Indonesia, and even Singapore and Malaysia are thinking of putting up also nuclear power plants, why can't the ASEAN region look at this as a region and then leverage their collective resources to put up, for example, a common regulatory system, a common training system, a common disaster response system. And if you act together as a region, you can even bring the cost down. So these are some of the things that we will have to think of down the line. Okay, Ralph?
Thank you. Thank you, Paul.
Yeah, thank you, Ralph. We only allotted 1 hour for this press con, and we only have one minute left.
Okay.
But we have questions here from the chat box. And I think you can only accommodate at least 3 questions. One from Lenny, Lectura of Business Mirror, and her question is, consumers groups such as CEED, P4P have expressed concern over appointments that have ties with the avoidance group. They challenge this ERC DOE to prove that consumers' welfare will not be neglected. Said Popo, how would concerns? Thank you.
Hi, Lenny. Do you think I'm not independent? Now, Lenny, before I would have told you that I was independently poor. I'm not independently wealthy up to now, but independence is the main ingredient here. And I can assure you that, and so far as I am concerned, and the people that I have worked with, that they will be independent. And so far as supporting the president's desire to have a level playing field. Because at the end of the day, it is when we are fair that the investors will come and our people will benefit. If we skew our decisions one way or the other, because we owe appointments to this and that sector, then we would have done our people a disfavor. And that's not the kind of legacy that we want to leave behind. Thank you, Lenny.
Her next question, sir. What is your stand on LNG as bridge to a clean energy future? Will the DOE support a plan for the enactment of an enabling law for the natural gas industry and providing incentives to LNG gas bridge fuel?
Well, you're right there on point, Lenny. I think you will recall that the president included in his State of the Nation address legislative agenda the passage of a law for the downstream natural gas. So it's not only the upstream that needs to be the policies and laws to be clarified, but we want to have a stable regulatory framework for the downstream natural gas. You know, you see right now there is a department circular, but the department circular can change with the next administration as well. But we want to provide certainty to the investments because these are long-term investments. They're not going to be there only for what? For one administration, but for several administrations. And therefore, it is best to have a law in place. You know, our problems in the water sector, you remember? It's because, unlike in the power sector, we attended to the regulatory framework first. In the case of water, there is no legislated regulatory framework in the MWSS or even outside of the MWSS area. So that's why we have struggled over the years. So let's address this particular challenge now. Thank you.
Sir, last question from CNN, page Javier. Senators Subiri and Co. are calling for a review and amendment of IPIRA to combat the rise in electricity rates in the provinces. Is the DOE open to this, sir?
When the Senate President talked about IPIRA amendments, they are looking, for example, at another aspect of the President's legislative agenda, which is on the reform of the electric co-ops. You see, when in 2001, when we were crafting the IPIRA under under the committed leadership of then Congressman Noli Fuentebella, the father of Yusek Wimby, what we had in mind was to put in one chapter on the electric co-ops because we were absorbing 18 billion pesos. But because of the political give and take, that was postponed. But we realize now that that can no longer be postponed. We will have to take a closer look at at how we should help, we should reorganize, we should strengthen the electric cooperatives. As you know, the concept of an electric cooperative is a developmental agent. When the electrification program was launched in the late 1960s and early 70s, there was no power or electricity that you can talk about in the entire country. Nobody remembers that anymore. But that was the developmental mission of the electric co-ops. There are areas in the country which up to now still need that developmental support or outlook. On the other hand, there are areas in the country that have already matured, that in fact the cooperative structure may become an impediment to bringing new facilities, investments, and power supply to industrial users. Because our co-ops are mostly operating, or they are operating on a cash basis. And so we will have to take a look at at all of this. And the EPIRA amendments that the Senate President and our legislators are looking at would have to consider elements of this reform. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Si Alena has one pahabol, kung pwede daw po bang merong mag-last question siya. I hope, Alena, hindi mahaba yung ating...
Alena, hindi na pwede. Galing, hindi sila kabalo kung anong ginaba ko sa imo. So, I let Andrea answer you.
Ilonggo ka na.
Sir, Bisaya din yan si Alvin Bisaya din.
O hindi, Ilonggo kami. Kaya,
Naiintindihan ninyo.
Oh, Alena, why ka na question ko no?
Alena, bilisan mo na at kakain na tayo.
Alena, go ahead, ask question.
Ako ba? Teka na, ano ba? Ang dami kong tanong eh. Hindi ko alam kung nasan na.
Mag-take two pa tayo kay Seth.
Yung BNPP na lang, sir, sa nuclear, kung ano ba yung, what do we plan to do about it? At, may finality na ba during the term of President Marcos?
Again, in this particular case, if you recall, Secretary Calchua already announced before that the previous government had commissioned a study on the alternatives for the Bataan nuclear power plant. So we'll be definitely looking into that. And as I told you, it is important to consider the views of the people of Bataan. And we want to assure everyone, the host community, as well as everyone else, that we would work on the regulatory framework, because even Bataan nuclear power plant would also need to work within a regulatory framework, and we would need to address as well all of the concerns of the International Atomic Energy Agency. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Seth. Ingat lagi. Bye-bye.
Maraming salamat sa inyong lahat. Now I'm hoarse again.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.
Alaga ka na, sir.
Bye-bye.
Face-to-face na tayo.
Sige.
Next time.
Thank you. Secretary Trixie, bye-bye.
I've dealt with these people for such a long